those immediate issues of what do I need to gather, and is there anything currently that's an emergency, are things you're going to want to make sure you talk to the attorney about.
Hello, I'm Tom Mustin with Ask the Lawyers. Thank you for joining us today. Are divorces different when they involve considerable assets or property? We're going to talk about that with attorney Jillian French in today's episode of Ask the Lawyer. Jillian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Always great to talk to you. My first question is, can any divorce attorney handle a high asset divorce case?
So any divorce attorney is licensed to handle a high asset divorce case. Typically, though, you're going to want to find someone who has some resources available to them or some experience in reviewing the documents associated and handling the issues that come up when dividing those high asset property.
Okay, so how does forensic accounting come into play here?
That can come into play in a few different ways. We may hire a forensic expert to trace separate property versus community property. We may hire someone to try and trace down funds that we think is missing, or we could even have them come in and do a valuation of an asset like a business.
How about investment assets and stock options, that kind of thing?
Right. So all of those come into play. And again, we need to assess whether or not they're separate or community property. We may need the help of a forensic expert or a financial expert. But a lot of the times with things like restricted stock options or things like that, we can do sort of that math and division for the client.
And I know that real estate property can be very tricky here. What's the best way for someone to protect themselves there in that case?
The most important part of that would be when the property was purchased, were any funds used that would be considered separate property? And the reason why we want to know that question is if you put separate property into real estate, then there's going to be at least a portion of that real estate that is going to remain separate property. And now we have a mixed characterization asset. And that can get complicated very quickly. But if you find someone that knows how to assess that and help you do the math, then you'll be good to go.
Okay. And how about high earner child support? How can an attorney help out there?
So in Texas, we have a presumption that there's a cap of $9,200 per month net. That's the current cap of what can be used for income for child support purposes. However, there are factors that can be considered for people to go above and beyond that child support amount. And so you're going to want to find someone that can help you figure out, either if you're the person asking that, to help you assess what the needs of the child are that would prove that higher amount. Or if you're trying to say, I want to only apply the cap, you will also need someone who has experience with arguing against going above and beyond the cap. And that's really the other person's burden to prove that they need to go above and beyond it.
And kind of along the same lines there, if I'm deciding I need to hire a divorce attorney, what kind of questions should I ask that attorney?
I personally, whenever I do a consultation, I like to structure the consultation myself of process, property, child-related issues, bird's eye overview of those as far as the law in Texas. And then I talk to the clients about the specifics. If you find that you have a very particular issue of, hey, I know that I have this separate property asset, what do I need to get in order to prove it? What documents should I request? Or I have this particular issue or an emergency that's come up relating to my business, and I need to get an injunction in place, or they're interfering with my business relationship. Those immediate issues of what do I need to gather, and is there anything currently that's an emergency, are things you're going to want to make sure you talk to the attorney about.
Great answers, Jillian. Always great to talk to you.
You as well. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for talking to us. And that'll do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. Our special guest has been attorney Jillian French. If you have a question about your situation you want to ask Jillian, just call the number you see at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Mustin for Ask the Lawyers.